Welcome back to The Gay Ugly Truth. My name is Blue, and if this is your first time joining, be sure to check out my introduction to know who I am and what my podcasts are about. And be sure to check out my previous episodes. And if you're a returning listener, I'd like to thank you for your support. In today's episode, we'll be talking about cliques in the gay community. So join me as we take a safari ride through the gay animal kingdom, as we look at all different categories that gay men identify themselves as. Alright, so what do I mean about cliques in the gay community? The clique in the gay community is also described as the gay animal kingdom. We identify ourselves or put others in a category based off on the way we look and the mannerisms. There are some that will put themselves in multiple categories, but normally it usually is just one group that person identifies as. Now, this group that you usually identify as is pretty much the group that you're going to associate with, talk to, hang out with, and understand each other based off of what your personality and your trait is. And these types that we classify ourselves as also has a big part in sex in the gay community. When we're on the prowl and looking for that nut, we usually put in there what the type of person it is that we're looking for. This could be the jock, the bear, the silver daddy, the twink. Those are the ones that we look for that we want to have sex with. Now, the type of person you are also has to play in the type of person you're going to get. A lot of times, that type that you are is only what you seek. And those in that type of category will not look at another person outside that category. So if they're strictly into muscles, which would be the jock, then they're going to go after the jock, and more than likely they are the jock. And yes, there are some types that do stray outside of that category. For example, a twink might be into a bear. And the type that you identify as also plays a role in relationships. More than likely, usually you'll be in a relationship with pretty much the same type unless you are going outside that category. If you have an attraction to a different category, then you will be with that person. But it's very rare that you see that happen, but it does happen. Now, we have one called a chaser. A chaser is someone that is a particular type that's always chasing after a particular group or type of person. A lot of times when we chase that group or that type of person, they don't usually want to have anything to do with us. So that's part of where that chase comes in. Now, there's two groups that get chased a lot, and those are usually the jocks and the twinks. Now, there is a group that does get chased, and that's usually chased by the straight community, would be the drag queens. And we'll get a little bit further into details later on in the episode about the different types of chasers there are. So now let's get to the categories that the gay identify themselves as. Alright, and on the right you will see the bears. Now the bears do have a subcategory within itself, but usually the primary bear is usually a larger, stocky man that is usually covered in hair front to back and has a full-on beard. Now the bear also can be somewhat muscular, but not like defined muscular. They do sometimes can get that way and still classify as a bear, but then that kind of does that mixed category that we talked about where they identify as a bear and then they could identify as a muscle jock. Now, the bears have been in the gay community for a very long time. Now, the bears do have a flag of their own. The flag's design is a bear paw print, and then it's got a color bar between brown to black, which is all usually tans, and that is how the bears identify themselves and celebrate their pride in the gay community. And the subcategories of the bears also utilize this flag as part of their pride in association with the bear community. Now, let's move on to the subcategories of the bear. So now the next one is the cub. Now a cub is basically a baby bear compared to the larger daddy bear. Now those are still the same. They're large, husky, usually have a lot of hair on their bodies, and they're usually in an age bracket between their teens to about their 30s. Now let me tell you, the bears love the cubs because that's pretty much how it goes. You know, they're older to younger, which we, as we get older, chase after the younger ones, and they're just a lot of fun, more energetic, and they're fresh out of the oven. And the cub does mature to a bear as they age. So now the wiser, more mature, older bear that's usually set out to pasture at some point in their life is the polar bear. So the polar bear is basically the same as any other bear, hair all over, usually heavier, huskier. The only difference to this bear because of its maturity is their hair turns white, which is the gray hair that we get when we get older. And the polar bear is the wiser bear of them all. That is the one that's basically been around the block, not just sexually, but they have that knowledge of life and understanding, and they have been in that bear community for a very long time, and they usually are well established and very looked up to because of their age. The next one would be the otter. Now, the otter I know is not a bear, but the part of the otter is the hair all over. The only difference to the otter is they're on the slimmer side, usually pudgy. Usually you do not see a muscular otter. It's just basically one that is not defined and that does not have that husky, heavyish kind of weight to them. Now, the otter does not have an age range to it. So basically you could be a 20-year-old otter to a 50 or 60-year-old otter. So the next one would be the wolf. Now, the wolf is usually a muscular, hairy man that is very aggressive. Now, they do not classify in the bear community. The bears may accept them into the category, but a lot of times they are solo. The wolf has a kind of subcategory that falls underneath them. The wolf does have an age range, and usually that age range is from 30 till whenever it is that their time is no longer here. The wolf is one of the ones that sit at the top of the categories that is most desired, and a lot of times the desire comes from them being muscular. The other reason of them being more desired is because of the dominance. The next one is the pup. Now, the pup can classify under as the category of the wolf. The difference with the pup is they play more into the kink role. A lot of times what the pup also has is a face mask in the shape of a pup that does come in many colors and shapes and forms. They also are submissive, and a lot of times they seek a handler that is usually the wolf. The role the pup plays is usually being on all fours. You sometimes have a collar with a leash that the handler is in control. They sometimes beg, and their rewards could either be something sexual or whatever the agreement is in that type of kink that they're into. The other type of handler that controls the pup is the leather daddy, and this is another category that some can identify as. The leather daddy is the one that's usually wearing leather, has the chest harnessed. They have sometimes just like the nipple clamps. They have those leather chaps on. They also partake in a lot of types of kinks. The physical appearance of a leather daddy is they're usually the older, very burly, could be hairy, sometimes also shaved. They can also be on the heftier side, and to classify usually between the age range of 30 or older. Before I move on to the next type, I just want to point out, if you haven't noticed, that a lot of these categories that are being categorized when you get onto the older side starts at the age of 30. So when a gay individual hits the age of 30, they feel now that their time in the gay community is less desirable. So when this happens, they now start looking into those categories that are usually older. And some of them will now start to change their image or fit into those molds of an older category. So since we are on the older side of things, the next one is the silver fox. Their appearance is usually older within the category age range of 45, 50 and older. Their body type is usually kind of like the otter. They are slender, slim, maybe be chubby and muscular as well, and sometimes they also have that body classification of the dad bod. So what gives the silver fox its name? So the silver fox is usually their hair is gray, be it their body or their hair. The next one is going to be the daddy. Now, the daddy is the same as a common thing in the straight community. They are older, which is usually 50 and older, and a lot of times they chase, as again, we hear that word as a chaser, after the younger individuals. And the main ones that they do chase after are the twinks. Now, the daddies want a relationship where they can take care of the individual. They normally are the wealthy ones and well established. Now, a lot of times also why they seek out is because they could already have an established relationship and now they're just looking for the sex part of things, and their attraction is to those younger, thin, muscular men, which they could also chase after the jocks, but the jocks also usually just chase after the daddy. The other thing that they do is when they chase after those two categories of like the jock or the twink, a lot of times the jock and the twink will look at a daddy and not see any type of attraction or desire on wanting to be with them. And when this happens, the daddy will pay for that type of person to obtain that sexual gratification and fill that desire they want. And us in the gay community are extremely judgmental. And when we see a daddy with a jock or a muscle individual or a twink, we automatically assume they're there for the money. Now, I'm not saying that that could be the truth behind why that person is together. There could legitimately be true love between the two individuals. So this is a mirror effect between the straight community and the gay community, that the percentage is pretty high of them being there in that situation because of the money. So the next category is the twink. Now the twink, you've heard me talk a lot between basically all my episodes. The appearance of the twink is usually hairless, very thin. They range from the 18 to about mid-20s and are the most desired ones in the community that are sought out by many of the categories in the community. There is a label attached to them that many may know or have heard, which is pretty much a saying, is young, dumb, and full of cum. The reason that they're given this is because they're fresh out of the oven. They are very driven sexually. They really haven't had a lot of experience. They want to explore and they want to find their path in the community or see where they belong. Now, twinks are really bad at relationships. And the reason why they're bad at relationships, and yes, there are some that may not fit into this box, is that they want to explore. They don't want to be attached to one person. This one person may try everything in their power to keep them, but it's based off of sex sometimes. And as I'm going to repeat that label, they're young, dumb, full of cum, and if they are hung, you are totally screwed. Not one person is going to respect that relationship, and they're going to do whatever it is in their power to have sex with them. And a lot of us in the community know the risks of trying to build a relationship with them, but there are some that take the risk, end up heartbroken, or what they start to do is they start to pay their way for the love. They will wine and dine them and give them everything that they want in order for them to stay by their side. So they basically become like a trophy. So now the next one is the twunk, which is right along with the twink, same exact thing. The only little bit slight differences to this is they have usually the little bit of a swimmer's build. Some of them may have a little bit of body hair. The majority of them do hold that full shaved look though. The next one is going to be the jock. Now, many know what a jock is, even in the straight community. On the gay side, a jock is very into their body, muscular. Sometimes they can have hair. Sometimes they'll have like a little yummy trail. The majority of them are hung, which is very sought out in the gay community. A lot of them enjoy the partying and drinking. A lot of them wear those fitness type clothing that drives gay men nuts. And this usually is like gym shorts, sweatpants, tank top, anything that they can do to show off whatever it is that they have. Jocks are a huge tease in the community. They also spend a lot of time at the gym making sure that they look good and stay fit. They also are huge in the gay porn industry. Jocks really don't mingle outside of their identification category. A lot of times they will only be intimate with another jock or another muscle person. They will not give a twink, a bear, a daddy any opportunity possible. If it does happen, more than likely it's a financial agreement that comes to play. Jocks are also extremely judgmental. They play a big part in the image of the gay community. They literally set the standards of the way you're supposed to look being a gay person. The age bracket of a jock is usually mid-20s to about 30, 35. Now, past the age of 35, a lot of the jocks that used to be fight to maintain that image and that credibility. And as they get older, they click to each other and they pretty much build this friendship that no one is allowed to enter. They still maintain being judgmental and they still seek within their own type or category. But as they get older, they now start to fall in those different categories that we have already discussed when you hit that age point. So now the next one is the bull. The bull basically is an extremely muscular bodybuilder. Those are the ones that usually have muscle on top of muscle. You'll see them compete in competitions. Those are the ones that are large and in charge. And they can sometimes be aggressive, but they also can sometimes be a cuddly bear. The bulls really don't mingle or stay in the groups in the gay community. A lot of times they keep to themselves, they focus on themselves and their competition, and that's usually the standpoint with them. A little fun fact about the bulls is a lot of times when it comes to them on the sexual side, just from personal experience, a lot of them are into bottoming mostly, and then also some of them are into the body worshiping from others. So moving forward with muscles, since we're already at this point, so the next one is going to be the gym rat. Now the gym rat is usually the one that goes to the gym like almost 7 days a week, spends hours in the gym, makes sure their physique is on point. They have to keep that image that they want to portray. And those are the ones that be like, hey, I'm just coming from the gym. I wanted to know if you wanted to hang out. They are also the ones that go to like GNC, the vitamin shop, to build up on protein protein shakes or get multivitamins. The difference for them to the bull is that usually like the bulls, they're like 200 plus pounds over. The gym rat usually stays under the 200-pound mark. The next one is the gym bunny. Now the gym bunny is usually on the softer feminine side. They really don't have a lot of muscle. They more are just defined. They mostly go to the gym for like an hour or so. They work more on cardio. They don't really do a lot of weightlifting. They are there usually to socialize or kind of find their next fling or possible relationship. A lot of times what they'll do is just they're there to keep their physique. So this way they don't get bigger, they don't get overweight. It's just more of a maintenance thing. So the next one is the drag queens. Now drag queens literally are in a league of their own. Not many people really associate with the drag queens except unless you're a fan of their entertainment or you're just close friends. I'm going to touch a little bit about this because we are going to have an episode in regards to drag queens. The appearance type of a drag queen can vary greatly. There's not just one specific type. You know, you can have the larger ones that are usually on the chunkier side. You have the thin fit ones. You can sometimes see a muscular drag queen, which does kind of look weird, but they do pop up a lot of times in this category. But the majority of them are very feminine. They do have a very softer physique. It's not really defined. It may have a little bit of definition to it, but it's seldom to happen. The other positive side to the drag community is they really do not judge each other on their body size at all. Now, some of the setbacks to the drag queens is that a lot of the other categories do not want to have anything to do with a drag queen, especially on the sexual side. There are some that do embrace them and love them unconditionally and don't have that blockage because they do drag. But sex and relationships is really, really difficult for a drag queen to pursue. So the next thing to roll off of this here is the chasers. Now, I did touch briefly at the beginning of the episode about chasers, and now we're going to go a little bit more into depth further of a chaser. Now, there is going to be some type of repeated information that I had already talked about, but now we're going to roll off of the drag queen to the straight chaser. Now, some straight men, I'm not saying all of them, do chase after drag queens for sexual gratification. They will pursue this because they are driven for sex. The drag queens portray a female image and they're able to mentally change their mind and enjoy getting sexual pleasure from a drag queen. And on top of it, the gay community itself chases straight men, the majority of them do, and they're looking for that sexual gratification from the straight men. And those in the gay community see or recognize their draw for lookalike women or cross-dressing basically in order to obtain that. So they see that and they're like, ooh, this straight man's going to go after me. I want straight men. So if I dress like a woman, I'm going to get that opportunity. The other thing that the straight men chase after are also the transsexuals. And a lot of time this is now because they've altered their body and they're able to offer them like boobs, long hair. Sometimes they will actually go in and have surgical procedures done. But a majority of them also chase after them because they want the boobs, but they also want a little special surprise attached to them. Straight men have a small percentage, not all of them. Some of them have like a small percentage of enjoying sucking another man or playing or getting their butt played with. And if they do this with a drag queen or transsexual, mentally to them, it's still a woman. A lot of times, just remember that their woman, wife, girlfriend, however you want to put it, will not partake in anything like that, even butt play, and they'll look at them, even if they have the opportunity to allow it, in the wrong direction. The next chaser would be the older generation, pretty much. That's how I'm going to classify it. And they are the ones that usually chase after the younger, more fit, muscular, even the twinks, and they seek them directly and specifically for sexual gratification. And if this type that they're chasing, they will, if they can't get their way, so say if they're chasing a muscle individual and that person shows zero interest in that older person more than likely is going to pull out his wallet and say, here, what about this? And maybe get their way, but it depends on if that person that they're chasing would be into an option such as that. The next one is the chubby chaser. Now, the chubby chaser is one that's on a smaller frame. Usually that can be muscular or have that swimmer's build, and they only specifically go after the heavier men. The next chaser is the race chaser. Now, the race chaser is the one that specifically only chases after one specific race. So, for example, there could be one that just chases after black men. There could be one that just chases after white men. There could be ones that just chase after Latin men or Filipinos or Asian. Those are the ones that will not go outside of the one they're that they're trying to chase. Now, the next chaser is the straight chaser. Now, the straight chaser comes within the gay community, and what happens to that is they chase only after straight men. I know that I have talked a few times about this in the episode, but now I just want to go a little bit more into further detail. So when gay men chase after straight men, it's like a natural high. Straight men can be very dominant, which a lot of gay men like. Straight men can be very controlling and dominating and be able to manipulate and tease one because they know that that gay man seriously wants to get with them, so they take advantage of that opportunity. And a lot of them will also put the financial aspect into play. They'll be like, oh, you want to get with me, then you got to pay for it. But there are some straight men that just strictly allow sexual pleasure from a gay man because at that time they're horny, they want to get off, they know the difficulties sometimes that can be getting sex from a woman, they know gay men are very sexual driven, so they take advantage of that opportunity and they know where to go to pursue it. And then this is where that cruising and that outdoor or public play falls into place, which we talked about in sex in the gay community. And then the next one is not such a good one, and the gay community has a tendency to put some people into this category, and that's the troll. This one is usually an older, unfortunately ugly or not good-looking male that many in the gay community will not give the time of day. Now, there is another meaning to troll, which runs right along the side of this, but the little difference to this one, trolling is also classified as cruising for sex. Now, trolling can come from a lot of the actual troll, and a lot of times that's how they're associated with it, because a lot of times they'll look at it and they'll be like an older gentleman cruising for other gentlemen for sexual gratification. And then now, there is the outcasts. Now, the outcasts kind of explain it as it is. Those are the ones that do not associate who they are or how they look or how they dress with any category in the gay community. They are the ones that usually beat to their own drum. But because of this, and the way they choose to live their life and partake in the gay community has some repercussions. A lot of time, the outcasts are the ones that are not truly accepted in the gay community, so no one really wants to associate with them. It becomes like they're on their own island. But they do at some point attempt to fit in these types of categories. And these categories, sometimes they still may not be accepted or they feel like they don't belong there because of the way they're being treated. And this is where that gay individual now does not want to have anything to do with the gay community or partake in any of its cultures or celebrations. And when that individual does this, it now becomes a double standard. Now the gay community looks at that individual for not wanting to partake and gives them a negative look. But the gay community was already saying, no, you don't fit in. And this is legit. And I know a lot of people are going to turn around and tell me, no, that's not true. It is true. That's why a lot of times on social media, you see those posts coming like, I'm done. I don't want to be part of this anymore. This is too difficult. Relationships are too hard to find. It's because they don't fit in and they're being shunned, basically. And the sad thing to say is this is where a lot of the suicide happens because of this. And this follows right along with the straight community. Those that get bullied, those that are outcasted in the straight community, those that get teased and they know that they don't fit in, and then they follow along those lines of attempted suicide. Now, and the last and final one, which I can't really go into a lot of depth with this one because it's almost going to turn into a whole nother half hour of this episode, are the gay furries. Now, the furries are the ones that dress in those fur animal costumes. So like, for example, you've got a squirrel or you've got a teddy bear or you've got a chipmunk, and they do partake in sexual pleasure as well. So, I mean, I'm not too familiar on the inside of what they physically do. I know a lot of times they'll have cutouts and they'll role play, but that is another category, like I said, that has many subcategories within itself. So there you have it, the gay animal kingdom. Not many are going to agree with me completely. They're going to turn around and say, oh, this is not true. You're completely wrong. And that's their opinion. But I'm bringing the gay ugly truth to you. And I have knowledge. I've been in the gay community for a very long time. I'm 40 years old, so I have some of that knowledge and experience. I've been through it myself. Do I classify in any of these? Absolutely not, because I am what you would probably classify as an outcast. And for those that say none of this is true, how do I know this? How do I know all this information? You can even go on the internet. You can even Google it. You can look anything up on it. You can even go on YouTube and it's talked about. if this is not the right thing in the gay community, or if people say that I'm lying, then why is this information available to anyone that wants to search it? Because it's true, it's there, and many people just want to deny it because they want to look good for themselves and be like, oh, we are equal to each other. We treat each other the same. We treat each other the right way. Let's fight for these rights to be treated fairly. But yet, in the community, we do not, per what you're hearing, treat each other fairly. And my listeners, that's the gay ugly truth. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the Cliques in the Gay Community. Be sure to join me again for Drag Queens in the Gay Community dropping on 11/18. Also, be sure to check out any of my previous episodes. And if you're just joining, you can also listen to the introduction to know who I am and what my podcasts are about. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to reach out to me, you can always reach out to me at thegayuglytruth22@gmail.com. Be sure also to check out The Gay Ugly Truth on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, thank you again for your support. We'll see you soon.